I see a dog a lot differently than regular people. So what I'm looking for is what makes the dog move, what makes the dog tick, right? What are the small things? Because if I can focus on the small things, the big things won't matter anymore. Most dog owners want to reach down and give their dog affection and be like, oh, it's okay, Marty. It's just Vince. Don't worry about it. Well, in reality, what we're doing there is called positive reinforcement of a negative behavior.
So Vince, tell me about what happens after that 2-week board and train.
So the very beginning, we train the dog. We know that in 1 hour, you can't learn everything that we've taught the dog.
What's the most important lesson you think you've learned as a dog trainer?
The most important lesson, I'd probably say,
Hi, I'm Heather Lipson, and this is the Voices of the Valley podcast, where we talk about everything in the Inland Empire. If you want to check out my videos and content, my @handle is @MenifeeXP on all social media platforms, and my website is menifeexp.com.
My name is Vincent Shields, and I'm the owner of the Epic Dog Academy. Check us out online at epicdogacademy.com.
Thanks for coming on the show. I'm so excited to talk to you about your business. So Vince, tell me what inspired you to start this dog training business.
So what inspired me to start the Epic Dog Academy was I saw there was a real need. I started working with dogs and everything like that when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those dogs, not only did they have a job to do, but they, gave us morale and helped keep our spirits high as well. Came back here, and I was kind of lost. I really didn't know what I was going to do. I started out, I was a bounty hunter, and then I kind of fell into a dog training role. And I learned to like it. It wasn't something that I was doing at first as like a job or a career. It was something that I was doing to help the other business that I was in, which was, the bounty hunting. So I had my own dog that we had and that I utilized then. But then I learned to really actually like dog training. And it wasn't even the fact of like training the dogs, right? The training the dog part, that's fun. But when you get to see the impact that you get to make on people's lives through training the dogs, that's really where I found my value, right? It was I kind of struggled when I got out of the Marine Corps with like a self-worth issue. And then now going to people's homes and I see that they have a problem, and some people, man, they're pulling their hair out. They're on the verge of divorce, things like that, right? Over communication issues with the dog. And so now I'm able to help change that, right? I come in, I'm the hero, I fix those problems. And then, it's a little deposit into my little, self-worth ATM, right? So
it gives you that purpose, right? That drive to want to keep helping because you see that it's a benefit to the community and you're like, I want to keep doing that, right? I want to keep promoting that.
Yeah, you want to just make a change, really. I mean, I think I have like a service-based heart, right? Yeah. So I think that, when it comes down to like doing things for other people, like I'm really kind of inclined to help than not to help. So that's what inspired me to start the Epic Dog Academy. Yeah,
I can definitely say when I met you, it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago now when you trained my dog. And when you came into our house and you did the original consultation, you're like, basically, I speak the same language as your dog. And you don't speak that language right now. And what I'm going to do is translate for you. And it was like night and day. He came back from the 2-week board and train, and I was like, oh my God, I say heel and he knows what to do. Like, this is incredible. And he still knows what to do because I worked with him a lot afterward. I worked with you guys a lot afterward and making sure that he, those behaviors were solidified. But it was, like you said, me pulling my hair out. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this 75-pound dog that is not listening to me, you know, especially when it's, he has, nervousness in public, nervousness with strangers. It sometimes people will look at me like, oh, your dog's aggressive or your dog's, but it's like, no, he's scared. Like he doesn't know how to behave. I haven't been able to teach him how to behave, right? He was raised during the pandemic, so he didn't get a lot of socializing with people. So yeah, you were able to communicate with him. And that's my, I wasn't even planning on getting into that today, but that's my little story, right? About Marty and about how it was night and day. And he was such a good dog at home, but it was out in public with those distractions, a whole nother level. Yeah. And that's where I think trainers come in and they're able to, have that calm head and communicate with the dog through and over those distractions.
Yeah, I really feel like it's our job as a trainer to kind of bridge that gap in communication, right? Because like when I see a dog, I see the dog a lot differently than regular people see the dog, right? So what I'm looking for is like what makes the dog move, what makes the dog tick, right? What are the small things? Because if I can focus on the small things, the big things won't matter anymore, right? So when I say like I can speak to I can't really speak to the dog, but you know what I mean? I have the ability to understand the dog's behavior, and I can read the dog's behavior to get the result that I want. But
yeah. Okay, so that actually goes right into my next question, which is tell me about your approach to dog training now. What are the things that you typically look for when you take in a new intake to your facility?
So I guess our philosophy here at the Epic Dog Academy is really structure, right? Structure is the way that you live your life, right? So the dog needs to be able to fit into that structure, right? And everybody's structure is going to be different, right? Some people are, hey, I need to be able to take my dog and go paddle boarding. And some people are like, hey, I just want to be able to walk the dog up and down the road. So we have structure, and then we have clarity, right? The dog needs to understand the verbal and the physical of what we're asking in order for the dog to be able to perform that, right? It's like if you guys were to ask me, hey, do a backflip. Well, I understand English. Doesn't mean I know how to do a backflip. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean I can't do it. Just means I don't understand, right? And so it's your job, if you're a professional backflip teacher, to teach me how to do the physical of that verbal, which is do a backflip. And that's what we do, right? So we teach the dog, hey, when I tell you to come, what does that look like? When I tell you to sit, what does that look like? But not only do they need to understand the verbal and the physical, they need to understand the context, right? Context is important, right? It's like I kind of go back to even being in the Marine Corps. We would go out and we would do these combat towns and things like that. That was the most realistic style of training for the environment we were about to go into. They brought in real life actors, and you know, it was as close to combat without getting into combat that you can get into, right? And so when we train in that context, it now prepares us for the next context that we could be, you know, that we're going into, right? And so like if you have a dog that, here's an example. If you have 3 small children, another dog, and a little bit of a chaotic life, and then you're like, oh, I want my dog to listen in that type of environment. Well, you need to train the dog to listen in that type of environment. You can't just say, hey, I expect the dog to do it. You have to work the dog through it. So once the dog has clarity of what it is that you want, what's your expectation, then we have guidance, right? What I like to refer to this is like, we don't wait for the little kid to go reach and touch the hot stove. We tell them before, hey, the stove is hot, don't touch the stove. So we're giving that child guidance, right? And then the very last thing is consistency. That's the number one issue with dog owners, is they're not consistent, right? And so on Monday, you can get on the couch, but Wednesday you can't, right? So when we're teaching that, we're actually teaching something completely different, right? So just important to have structure, clarity, guidance, and consistency. Yeah. So that's kind of our philosophy, and hopefully I answered the question right.
Yeah, you did. Okay, so now kind of a more light question for you. What's your favorite obedience command to work with a new intake? What's the favorite one that you get to work with dogs on?
So my favorite command to teach is actually a heel. Oh. Right, my favorite, because once you start to teach the heel, the whole world for the dog changes. It's not pulling on a leash anymore. The confidence goes up. The anxiety goes away, right? So the heel is that's my favorite command to teach. That's not the first command we teach, but that's my favorite one to teach because it gives the owner so much control, right? So
yeah, that's actually my favorite one to show off. I hate to use it as like a party trick, but it is for my dog Marty, because he will stay at my left side and I can walk around in circles and his whole body will rotate with me. And it's super cool. People see it and they're like, how do you get him to do that? And I'm like, well, I sent him to a training and then I just followed through, like, you know, making sure that we would practice every day, practice that. I would turn outside turns, inside turns. We just go out to the little park down the street and just practice it. And we did it over and over. And eventually now he can be, you know, completely asleep across the room and I could be like, Marty, heel. And he knows to get up and come to my side.
Yep.
And it's insane how a 2-week board and train like can change your life in that way, where your dog goes from he was pulling me down, you know, to the point where I was getting injuries from him pulling me down in public. And now it's like he won't even break that heel until I say break, which is it's an incredible feeling as a dog owner to be able to kind of show that off to people. So I love that that's your favorite trick. Or it's not really a trick, it's an obedience command, right?
Yeah.
But it is in that setting, where I'm showing it off to people. It feels like, it feels special. It's like me and my dog have that connection and that understanding.
Yeah, I mean, we can call them tricks, right? We can call them obedience. Yeah. We're teaching a dog something, right? And so it could be a trick, it could be a command, right? Mm-hmm. As long as the dog is following what it is that we're asking the dog to do, then that's what's the most important.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, so working with different breeds and temperaments, what are some of the struggles or different techniques that you have to use for different types of dogs?
So the breed is really irrelevant, right? Because every dog has their own personality, their own emotions, their own spirit, right? They're their own dog. So it doesn't matter if you're a husky and you like to run, or you're a golden retriever that likes to run, right? We have to address what we see in front of us. And a lot of people ask me that, what's your favorite breed of dog to train? Or what's the easiest? What's the hardest? With us training so many dogs every single year, I've seen the same problem that we had with Marty in a Chihuahua. I've seen it in a husky. I've seen it in a German Shepherd, a Mastiff, right? So we've seen the same issues that from dog to dog to dog, just in a plethora of different dogs, because we train so many different types of dogs. So I wouldn't say that we don't have anything special that we do specifically for this type of dog, right? It's all about, hey, what does this dog in front of us need, right?
So you fully customize it. Is kind of what you're saying. Yeah, you fully
100%.
Customize depending on more on the dog's temperament, more on their specific issues that they have.
Some dogs need more motivation. Some dog needs treats. Some dogs need play, right? You just got to figure out what's making this dog work, and then utilize a variable reward system and successive approximation. And now the dog is they're engaged with you to get you to do what it is that you want them to do, because now you're more fun than the distractions. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like even before, right? When Marty wasn't trained, you would like take him out and he would see something and he'd be more interested in that. And you're like, no, Marty, listen to me. Well, the value isn't there, right? Even though you own him and you take care of him, there's really no, I don't want to say it this way because it sounds bad. The relationship isn't built to where the dog's like, oh, I see you as like high value. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And so, but once we train them and we teach them and we teach you how to have a relationship with them, then now you become higher value. Mm-hmm. Right. So it comes down to two things in life, every relationship: effort and communication. Right. Been married 17 years. If I give my wife no communication, or I think I'm communicating well and it's not received properly, that's still poor communication. Mm-hmm. Right. Or if I'm not putting any effort towards it, then what am I going to get out of that relationship? Right. Same thing happens with our dogs. Mm-hmm. You have to be willing to put in that effort. Right. It can't be the dog 100% of the time being like, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here to give you this effort. And then you don't give anything back to the dog.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people they get a dog and they expect them to just magically kind of be like a robot. Like, hey, Alexa, play the radio, right? Yeah. Like, hey, sit. Hey, do this. But there's, like you said, all those different levels of distractions. Maybe they see a rabbit. Maybe they see another dog, and they're like, and then all the emotion and adrenaline comes in. And that's the thing with Marty is once he's got that heightened adrenaline, he would just lose his mind on leash. And golden retrievers are high energy dogs already. Yeah. So he's going on a walk. He's trying to get his energy out, but he's on a leash. He sees something he wants, and then all of a sudden this like temper tantrum breaks out. And I was at a loss, like, how do I get this dog to realize that he can't behave? Like, I'm not going to reward him, but he got to the point where he got so big, it was hard for me to keep him from the leash slipping out of my hand. Yeah. So, that's, I think, a pretty common thing for dog owners. And it doesn't always have to be a big dog. There can be little dogs that are strong enough and determined enough to break that, get out of their owner's hands and chase down another dog that other dog could potentially not like dogs. And so it creates in my mind, I was like, this is a potentially dangerous situation, not just for me, but for the dog. Yeah. And that's why I cared so much to make sure that he got trained properly, because I knew he was still kind of a puppy at the time, but I knew he's going to grow up to be an 80-pound golden retriever. Yeah. And I needed him to behave like, Yeah,
you need a well-trained dog. I like to use the word discipline, not in a negative, but, just like the Marine Corps does, a well-disciplined person. You want a well-disciplined dog, right? So the dog does what you want.
Yeah. So tell me, what's the most important lesson you think you've learned as a dog trainer?
The most important lesson, I'd probably say Humility, right? I think that or consistency, right? We'll go with consistency, right? Because I got to be consistent with everything that we do, especially with the dogs, right? So definitely consistency is the most important lesson. And that's what I try to get the other, like the dog owners to understand, right? The dog needs you to be consistent. They need you to give them clear direction, right? You see a dog that's like maybe panicking or a little bit, like say we're walking down the street, trash truck comes by, right? The dog panics, right? Most dog owners want to reach down and give their dog affection and be like, oh, it's okay, Marty, don't worry about it, it's just a trash truck. Or when someone comes in the house and they bark at them, they're like, oh, it's okay, Marty, it's just Vince, don't worry about it. Well, in reality, what we're doing there is called positive reinforcement of a negative behavior, right? So that's not consistent with what really needs to happen, right? So what needs to happen there is you need to give direction so the dog understands what you want in that scenario, so that way the dog can overcome those types of fears. And then the only way to actually fix it is to be consistent with doing it, and you give them the same result every single time, right? So
I can give you an example of that too with my dog. He always barks at the Amazon guy, and it's not that I really care that he barks. It's like he's doing his job. He's protecting the house. He knows somebody's at the door. He wants to let me know. And sometimes he'll hear them, like as soon as the van door opens, he's like barking, right? But now, after training and after kind of like years of just routine with him, he knows if I'm going to the door, I just slide the back door open and he runs right out there, and then he just sits and waits because he knows, okay, now mom knows what's going on. She's going to go get the door, and it kind of calms him down in that way.
Yeah.
Where he, like you said, I'm at least giving him that direction. I'm not just like, there's two different ways that people react. One is, telling the dog to shut up, right? And getting upset. The other one is, like you said, that kind of like a positive reinforcement, like, oh, it's okay. And then the dog starts to give that behavior more. They start to think that it's good to be nervous. It's good to do those things. And it creates a worse situation. So yeah, that's, I love that. I love that that's one of the greatest lessons that you feel like you've learned. I feel like that's one of the things that, having a nervous dog taught me, is that, calmness kind of, and like giving that direction instead of panicking, because then the dog panics more.
Yeah, it feels that energy down the leash. Right.
That's true.
You probably get too many Amazon packages if the dog knows.
We do. We definitely do. He knows. He knows the second. He probably knows the sound, the specific sound of the Amazon truck. And he's already like, by the time they get to the door, he already knows. He's ready to bark. So Vince, tell me about what happens after that 2-week board and train. The dog spends its 2 weeks with you. They learn all these new commands. They learn how to focus on your voice, pay attention, ignore the distractions. What happens when they go home back to their regular environment with their owners?
So the process for us is a multi-phase process. That's how our programs work. They're all multi-phase. So the very beginning, we train the dog, right? And your dog stays with us for as long as it takes to train, right? Because we're focused on, right, developing the dog and actually teaching the dog, right? Getting the results, right? It's not a time-based thing for us. And then once the dog is trained, or we feel like, hey, you know what, dog's ready to go home, we then set up an in-home appointment with the client. Client comes, we do it's called a go-home lesson. Teach the client what the dog knows. We know that in 1 hour, you can't learn everything that we've taught the dog. You're excited to see the dog. Dog's excited to see you. Sometimes the dog doesn't listen during the go home, right? We send the dog home. And then the process now, because it's changed since you've gone through, the process now is we do a Google Meet on the following Tuesday, right? So you take your dog home on like Friday or Saturday. That following Tuesday, we do a Google Meet or a Zoom with you to see kind of, hey, how are things going? And then we schedule an in-home appointment from there. Once we schedule the in-home appointment, trainer goes out to your house, and we want you to have a list of things that are like, hey, you know what? This is what I'm struggling with. He won't wait at the door. He pulled me on the leash. He got the trash out of the trash can, right? So that when we come to your house, we have something to work on, right? And then all we're doing at that point in time is teaching you how to actually control the dog in your environment, right? And then once we do the in-homes, you're able to come to group classes, right? Our group classes are a lot of fun. We average, 50, between, I'd say, let's be about 40 to 80 dogs, right, that come to group class, right? I know that's a big gap in between. That's 40 dogs, but like last week we had about 40 dogs. The week prior, or the 2 weeks prior to that, we had 50 or 60 dogs, right? So our group classes are big, But we do that so that we were able to teach you how to control your dog in mass chaos, right? Because if you can control your dog around 50 or 60 other dogs, you can control your dog walking up and down the street. You just have to put in the effort to do it, right? And then after group classes, there's what we have. It's called the behavioral insurance, right? So like if you have trouble, you just call us. Hey, I need help. We come back out to your house and help you, right? It's more, once you sign up with us and you become a client of ours, it's more of like a relationship. It's a team thing. It's not a, hey, cool, I sent my dog to a 2-week board and train. I never see a trainer again, right? So
that was one of my favorite things about going through your program with my dog is that I took him to the group classes for about 6 months afterward. I would go as many Saturdays as I could, and it's like each time he would do better and better because he was nervous around people. He was nervous around other dogs. And we would be like walking. And at that time, there was maybe like 15, 20 people there. It was still early on for you guys. But we would be walking in like figure eights with like these other dogs. And for him to have like somebody brush up against him, maybe their jacket or something, and him to not even turn. He was just so focused on the command that I'd given him and so focused on healing and paying attention to me that he ignored all of that other stuff. It was truly an incredible feeling. It makes you feel empowered with your dog. It makes you feel like, wow, I can literally take my dog anywhere now, almost to that point of where you're like, this dog is an actual companion of mine. It's no longer a headache. It's no longer a problem. This dog is now actually like what they would say, man's best friend. I could take him anywhere, could do anything with him, and he's going to pay attention to me. He's not going to run off. He's not going to get distracted. He's not going to bark, One
thing I like working with, like especially when we're training the dogs, is people that have maybe a little bit compromised like self-esteem, right? Because now you teach them to control their dog. They control their dog around all these other dogs, and then you watch their confidence level go up as well, right? And we do that all the time with people because, it's seeing is believing at that point in time, right? They're like, oh, Vince says my dog can do all this. Now let's put it to the test. And then once they're able to do it, then they're like, wow, my dog can really do all these things, and I can get my dog to do all these things. So
yes. Tell me about, you have your 2-week board and train, right? But tell me about some of those other specialized services that you offer for pet owners.
Yeah, so we're like a one-stop shop for the dogs, right? We offer grooming. We have a master groomer on staff. So what that means is she knows all the breed cuts and things like that. We offer daycare, and we also offer enrichment daycare for clients that have already been through training. So what I like to call that is like a little insurance policy for your training, right? You come, you do enrichment daycare. Your dog spends half the day doing daycare, spends the other half of the day working with the trainers. And then we offer overnight boarding, right? Overnight boarding for holidays, whatever. You want to go to San Diego and want to leave your dog with us? We'll take care of it while it's there.
Very cool. I love that. I love that you're already taking care of the dogs. Why not open it up to where you can also take care of them for grooming, for board and train, and for daycare. Daycare with Marty when he was really little. Before I actually lived in California, I lived in Minnesota. I took him to daycare when he was puppy because it was COVID and I couldn't really socialize him, and he did really well from it. Just as a puppy, I think that people underestimate. They think, oh, daycare for dogs, like that's a little silly, but it actually, like you said, enrichment. It enriches their lives. It gives them the opportunity to get that, especially puppies, to get that energy out. And then they come home, and instead of a dog that's like ready to chew up the entire couch because they've got so much pent up energy, you have a dog that literally just sleeps for like 2 or 3 days, depending on the energy level of the dog, right? But I had a golden retriever. It's a high energy breed. As a puppy, he would just sleep the whole rest of the day. And I would have to wait a couple days before I'd send him into daycare again because he would really get all of that puppy energy out. And so I think it's an underrated service that a lot of people don't look at it as much as they should as an option for that puppy training and for even adult high energy breeds.
Yeah, I mean, we would be out of a job if, I probably shouldn't tell anybody this, we would be out of a job if people just learn energy management, right? That's most people's problems. Their dog has too much energy, right? And so what I transfer training into is motion, right? So the dog either has too much motion or not enough motion, right? So if the dog is pulling you down the street, that's too much motion. We need to slow that motion down, teach them a heel command. If the dog is running away from you, that's too much motion, right? If your dog is like afraid to go in places, we need to increase motion, right? So if energy management and being able to control the dog, with energy, that's their biggest issue.
Yeah. So tell me about what you offer and how you collaborate with local shelters in the area.
Yeah, we haven't really. We started to collaborate with Animal Friends of the Valley, and then we found out that like some local rescues they don't get funding, right? Animal Friends of the Valley gets funding, so. Sorry, Animal Friends of the Valley. But we went to switch to our donation program, which we call the Train One, Save One program. We switched that over to local rescues. So we work with like Martha and like Bingo's Buddies, and there's a few other pantries that we work with. And since 2021, we've donated 42 tons of dog food. That's a lot of dog food, right? And so every client that signs up with us, we ask them, hey, will you donate 3 bags of dog food to our Train One, Save One program? And majority of them do. And then we donate that food to local rescues and to people that need it, right? And then like all the dog food that comes in, like say you send your dog into training with us, you send them with a brand new bag of dog food. We utilize as much dog food as needed for while your dog is there. Unfortunately, we can't give it back. So then what we do with that dog food is we bag it up into little 1-gallon bags, and we give it to this lady, and she goes and takes it to the homeless that have dogs. It's easier to give a homeless person a 1-gallon bag of dog food than here's 30 pounds, carry this around with you.
Yeah,
So.
That's incredible. I didn't know that you guys did all that. That's really amazing way to like give back to the community too and help those shelters, because dog food is not cheap.
It isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Vince, whenever I look on social media and I see people asking for a dog trainer, and I mean, it could be anywhere. Sometimes I see it on Ring Neighbors or in community groups. I always see Epic Dog Academy listed. And it's not just like 1 or 2 people that answer with your name. It's like multiple. Like I go in there looking to say like, oh, go to Epic, and then I see that it's already done. So how did you become like a household name in this area, this like very saturated market that we have?
Yeah, I think most people value that we're results based and honesty, right? I'm going to tell you how it is, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm going to tell you like, hey, look, these are the issues that we're having, and this is how we're going to be able to fix them. As long as you're on board to fix these issues, they'll be fixed. But, if you're not on board, then save your money, right? We get some people that say they're on board and then they're really not. And, we're still here for them. But, it's definitely, I think people value the honesty that we give and that I'm a straight shooter, right? Like we come to group class, if you got a problem, I'm going to tell you exactly how to fix it. And then we stand behind what we say, right? So if I tell you like you need help, we're going to come to your house and help you, right? That's what that whole behavioral insurance is for. So I would say that, and then obviously our results, the results that we provide for clients, it's untouched, right? I mean, we train so many dogs and so many people that, the other trainers are just trying to catch up, and they're going to keep trying.
Yeah. And what I think is really cool, because see, I found you guys early on. Like I just moved to California and I was I saw maybe 3-4 other trainers before I found you guys. And I was just not impressed. I honestly was just not impressed by anyone I saw in my area. So I found out about you guys. I saw your truck driving down the street and I thought, oh, that's a cool slogan. Like, why be average when you could be epic or something like that. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to call them. So I called you, and I was very impressed with like just from the consultation, your knowledge and your understanding of my dog when you walked in the door. And the test that I saw you do, some behavioral tests when you saw him, and the answers that you kind of gave me just right then and there of what you could do to help. But one of the coolest things that I feel like I've seen is going from there when you because it was 2021 maybe.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like around the time you guys were still getting your name out there and still getting started. And now you have a mobile app where you communicate with people. You say, you do virtual meetings with people once the dogs go home. You have all of these like technological advances that you just don't see with other dog trainers. And having my newer dog go through your program just a few months ago was really crazy to just see how much you guys have invested back into the business and making sure that it's the best product for the, like really focusing on client first product.
Yeah.
And just, I guess, tell me like some of those ideas, where did that come from? Like the idea to create an app?
The app came from Olivia. I'll have to give her credit on that.
Nice.
she's always telling me, Vince, I want to be able to communicate better with the clients. And I think that's been one of those things that has been like just a really big change for us, right? Before we would communicate with you a little bit, but now we communicate with you every single day, right? You get report cards every single night via text message. You get two-way communication directly between you and the trainer. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I want to ask this question, you write it, boom, it's a direct message right to the trainer. When the trainer comes in the morning, they're able to check those messages, and then they can communicate back and forth with you. I think it's helped with transparency, right? And that's what, especially with a board and train, right? People really want that transparency. They're like, all right, where am I sending my dog? You see all these horror stories and things like that, right? And you're trusting us with your loved family member, right? And you're like, okay, well, how are you going to treat my dog? And well, when you get to see your dog in videos and pictures and on our Facebook and Instagram, then you really see, hey, my dog's actually happy to be there, not being forced to do things that doesn't want to do.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest shocks for me too with Marty, was when I went to the first group class after I got him back from board and train, and he was so excited to see the trainer that had worked with him. He was doing this little moo whine thing that it almost sounds like a cow that's being killed or something. It's like a golden, it's like a classic golden whine, right? But he was so excited, tail wagging, and I was like, I knew I made it right there. I mean, I already knew I made the right decision, but right there I was like, oh my gosh, it's so great to see how much my dog absolutely loves being here. And then he would jump right onto the place board. Before I even asked him, he's like, boom, I'm gonna do this, because he's a little honor roll student, right? I want to show off my skills, but that's one of the things that I guess really solidified it for me. Oh, my next dog, if it needs training, it's going here for sure, because I knew that it wasn't just good for me, it was really, really good for my dog too.
Yeah, I always tell people hey, we want to be like the uncle, not the weird uncle, but when your dog sees us, we want your dog to be happy to see us, right? It's your dog should be excited to come and see us, not be like, oh my gosh, it's Vince.
What's going to happen? Yeah, I'm nervous now. Yeah, no, it was a complete opposite. And it's also was a really empowering moment for me because, as I've said, Marty was a nervous dog around people. Yeah. Not other dogs because he had gone to daycare and stuff, but people specifically because he was a pandemic puppy. And so for him to see someone and just overwhelmed with excitement and joy was really cool, because beforehand he would scoot back. He'd maybe do a growl. He wasn't aggressive, but he was just I'm not sure about this, and I'm not comfortable with you coming up to me. And now he doesn't even, people come up to him and he's just a normal dog, every now and then when I'm walking him, maybe he sees something, he gets nervous, but we work through it, and I'm not saying it's a miracle, miracle cure-all. He's still the same dog, but he definitely has confidence now, and he has more confidence in me as oh, mom says this person's okay. Before it was all, I have to protect mom. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She lets anyone just come into the house, she's letting all these strangers in, right? To him, that's how he thought. Now it's somebody comes in, I tell him to go to his place board, he waits. He might bark a little bit, but he's on his place board. He's not in their faces. He's working it through. Yeah. And then once he calms down, he can come up and say hi. And then he gets all the love. And he's still a drama queen, as Goldens are. He'll whine and he'll, flip over to get belly scratches and all of that. But ultimately, before, we would have just had to keep him in another room. Yeah. And he'd be barking and stressed out and, having a fit because he's like, why am I locked in here when there's all these people invading the house? Because that's how dogs see it, right? And now he's actually able to be a part of those, birthday parties, whatever. When we have people come over, he's actually able to be part of the family in that way. Just as long as we take, like you said, the consistency and the guidance in those moments. Yeah,
you kind of hit the nail on the head there with when you were talking about, hey, I send him to a place, or I do this, or I do that, right? You're giving him direction in those times or those environments that he may not be, 100% sure in. And so now when you do that, you're building his confidence, right? So good job.
Thank you. So Vince, is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers before we wrap this up today?
Yeah, so we're launching a new program. So a lot of clients, they don't want to board and train. Right. So now we're going to give our clients the same results, but with in-home training. Right. So we don't have a name for it yet for the program, but if you want the results of a board and train, but you don't want to send your dog to a board and train, we're going to offer in-home training where the trainer comes to your house Tuesday through Saturday. The only day that we ask that you have to be there to work with them is the first day and on the Saturdays, right? And then they'll take the dog and they'll go train the dog, bring the dog back to your house. You ain't even got to be home for it. We have a realtor lockbox that we'll give you, put your keys in it. So we're just trying to make it to where those clients that are like, man, I really want to go with Epic Dog Academy, but all they offer is board and train, right? We're offering the same results, right? Same results-based program, right? So if it takes me 2 weeks, it takes me 2 weeks. It takes me 3 weeks, it takes me 3 weeks, right? You're getting the same thing, but in an in-home.
That's an incredible idea. I've never heard of anything like that before. It's very original, and I can see it actually being very successful for the dog because they're not going to this strange place and being left there for a couple of weeks where they have to. Now, I see there's a benefit to that too, right? Because they get all the drills and it can maybe make the training shorter. Whereas if they're having it done in home like that, it's going to take maybe a little bit longer, but it might be more comfortable, not only for the owners to not have to give their dog up for 2 weeks and be wondering about them, but for the dog to just be getting used to somebody coming in the house, leashing them up, taking them out. Like that would be an incredible thing for a dog who's nervous with doorbell training or nervous with what to do when people come in to the house like Marty was. So I could see that being incredibly successful for you guys.
Yeah, we're just using it as a way to, like some people are like, hey, I just have problems here at the house, right? Or my goal isn't to go and take my dog and go off leash and do all this stuff, but I have some problems at the house I need fixed, right? So now we're coming to the dog's environment, fix it in the dog's environment, teach the owner how to maintain it. And I think it's going to be really successful. I used to do it years ago, but then we grew and grew and grew, and I was like, I can't go to people's houses every single day. But now I have enough staff and trainers that we're gonna go back to that and give people what they want. Very
cool. One last question: What is the most incredible trick you've ever trained a dog to do?
I'm really big into protection, so I've trained bite dogs. I've trained bomb dogs, things like that. So I don't really train tricks, but those type of tasks, right? To be able to protect my family or protect somebody else's family. And then obviously train a dog to go. They work in Long Beach now and they sniff the ports and things like that. So they're trying to find bombs. Hopefully they don't find any ever. But those are obviously, I'd say, the greatest things that I've done besides like service task work. Service task work is like, that's the most meaningful stuff because now you're helping somebody that actually has a disability, like be able to live a more normal, quote unquote, normal life, right? So whatever normal means.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I'm so excited to hear about all the new developments and to watch you guys continue to grow in the community.
All right. Thank you for having me.